Crystal Murphy, and I work at Halifax State Historic Site. And we're here at the Montfort Archaeological exhibit. It is built over the foundations of the home of a man named Joseph Montfort. Montfort was a very important politician and a member of the Freemasons during the colonial period. In 1771, he was granted a charter by the Duke of Beaufort over in England to be the Grand Master of America, and he was the only Master Mason to have that title because, of course, after the Revolution, the two Masonic lodges split. And we know a lot about Joseph Montfort, and he was considered a great man for all the things that he did. But he also had a family. He had a wife, Priscilla, and he had 3 children, 2 very famous daughters, Mary and Elizabeth. So what do we know about them? Let's go into the Montfort's house and find out about them. Come on with me. As you can see, this is a large structure. It's not the original house, but a shell of a house over the period foundations. The house was built circa 1762. It was described by a traveler as being one of the largest and most commodious houses in Halifax. Montfort owned these 4 town lots. The one behind the house was likely a garden. We know this because the detailed map of the town of Halifax, done in June 1769 by C.J. Sauthier, shows a large garden on this lot. This first room tells us about Joseph Montfort. This is a picture of him. He was a very handsome fellow, wasn't he? So what we know about the house is it was built about 1762 and it burnt down sometime around 1868, and then it was covered over after it burnt down and actually became a cotton field. And then in the 1970s and 1980s, there were archaeological surveys that found a lot of very interesting artifacts and, of course, the foundations of the house. This next room shows us the foundation for 2 of the rooms, including a large chimney. Notice that this one has 3 fireboxes. Surely one of these rooms served as a dining room and another was a parlor where we can imagine Priscilla entertained visitors. We can also picture her caring for her 3 children, Mary, Elizabeth, and Henry. This part of the foundation shows us a brick floor. We're not sure why there is a brick floor here. The archaeologists that discovered it supposed it was an area of cold storage, such as a root cellar or a wine cellar. The next room shows us more of the artifacts that were found during the archaeological surveys and how they might have looked in this period. Some of the building materials, such as pieces of the window glass and the cornices, show possible burn damage. The room is furnished as a typical sitting room in the 1700s, complete with a casual dining table. We can almost imagine Priscilla sitting with her children, having a family conversation over dinner. Priscilla's daughters, like herself and her sisters, married important men here in Halifax. Elizabeth married John Baptist Ashe, and Mary married Wiley Jones. 2 very brave women were raised here in this house. Mary and Elizabeth both were faced with adversity in 1781. Lord Cornwallis and his troops took Halifax, and they actually took Mary's house. Mary Montfort Jones was living in a home called the Grove, which was just down the street here. And as they occupied the house, Elizabeth stayed with her sister. Just imagine how frightening it would be to have the enemy come and knock on your door and say, "We're taking over your house and you're going to feed us and take care of us while we're here." But for a time, there were no men here to protect the women and children. So Mary and her sister Elizabeth, uh, they actually provided room and board and entertained Cornwallis and his troops. And we have an 1848 written account in the Journal of the Daughters of the American Revolution that the two women actually taunted Tarleton, and that was very brave of them in a time when women were not very safe. And Tarleton was a gentleman, and he did at one point, according to the written account, he did actually reach for his saber at one point as if he was going to threaten them, but he stopped. And they were very courageous and showed grace under pressure. And because of that, our local DAR chapter is named after Elizabeth Montfort Ashe. And both of these women are well known to history as being brave patriots of the American cause. Priscilla died in October of 1780. We do not know where she was laid to rest, but we do know where Joseph was laid to rest, right here in front of the Royal White Hart Lodge. Her husband was the person who took the accolades. He was laid to rest with pomp and ceremony as the Grand Master of America. She was always the woman in the background who took care of their household, raised their children, and supported him emotionally. And in this video, we remember her. This ends our tour of the Montfort Archaeological exhibit. We hope you enjoyed it. Please come visit us at Historic Halifax State Historic Site in Halifax, North Carolina in the very near future.